Today we'll be going over 7.3a. So let's go start with our review questions. First question, what is a four-sided polygon called? Once again, that is called a quadrilateral. And what are the three properties of any polygon? Well, it has to be closed, and it has to be flat, and also it has to be straight. The sides have to be straight. Let's just say straight sides. Next question, how can you tell if a quadrilateral is a parallelogram? Well, if at least one, keyword being one, of these are true. So if the opposite sides are parallel, that's one. The opposite sides are congruent. Oop. Or if the opposite angles are congruent. If the consecutive angles are supplementary. And then if the diagonals bisect. Then any one of those 5 things you can determine if you have a parallelogram. Along with the opposite side, number 2, the opposite sides being congruent, that's true for the most part. Yeah, that's true. Okay. Number 1, let's try some of this out. If I wanted the quadrilateral to be a parallelogram, what would the value of the variables need to be? Use the 5 properties of the parallelogram. Oh, okay. Well, let's look at x and y. X, if I want this to be a parallelogram, the opposite angles have to be congruent. So opposite angles congruent. So that means x would have to equal 114 and y would have to equal 66 because those are the opposite angles of each other. Number 2, remember opposite sides are congruent. That means x would have to equal 16 and y would have to equal 9. Number 3, our opposite sides are congruent. That means y would have to be 15 and x would equal 9. Oh, a little bit of a tricky one. So we don't know everything here, but I know that the opposite sides, opposite angles are congruent. So that means 2m must equal 70. I can divide both sides by 2. M should equal 35. This is 70. N and M are consecutive. That means they have to be supplementary. So supplementary, consecutive sides are supplementary. So that means N equals 180 minus 70 degrees, which gives me, let's see here, 110 degrees. So there we go. Let's see, let's try some more examples here. Try it out. Is the quadrilateral shown to be a parallelogram? And explain. Well, these opposite sides are the same, so I'm like, yes. Opposite sides are congruent. This does not match that, so no. Oh, these are congruent, so yes. This is opposite sides are congruent. I don't know why it's not working. Here, oh, the opposite angles are not the same here, so this is a no. This one, the opposite angles are congruent, so this is a yes. Opposite angles congruent. Let's see here. These are the same. That's good. And these are supplementary, so yes. Consecutive angles supplementary. What about this? These opposite sides are congruent, so we can say yes. Opposite angles congruent. Here we have two that don't match, so this is a big old no. Let's see here. This one gives me a 70 and 110. Those are 180, and those are 180. The consecutive sides, angles are supplementary, so we can say yes. Consecutive angles supplementary. Oh, here, this is the diagonals. Notice 7 and 9, they aren't the same. That means they're not bisecting, so these are no. But this, the two sides are the same, so we can say yes, because the angles, diagonals bisect. See here, this next one, the two opposite sides are congruent, so we can say yes. And this opposite sides are congruent. Let's go down here. This one, our opposite angles are congruent, so we can say yes. Opposite angles congruent. This next one, opposite sides are congruent, we can say yes. Opposite sides congruent. Here you gotta be careful here, because this is the opposite angles have to be congruent, and they are not. So this is a big old no. It tried to trick you there by giving you some consecutive angles being congruent. So this is no. Here, the diagonals bisect each other. So yes, the diagonals bisect. Here, if we add this up, 58 to 112, what is that? Does that give me 180? That actually gives me 170. So they are not supplementary. So this is a no. Let's see here. The diagonal has to be bisect each other. That means this whole thing has to have the same tick marks, and they don't. So this is actually a no. The diagonals don't bisect each other. Oh, the opposite angles have to be the same. These two are not the same. So this is a no. Here, the diagonals, they are the same because these are tick marks and these numbers are the same. So this is a yes. And that's because the diagonals bisect each other. Let's go down here. 105, 70 and 75, they are not the same. So this is the no. Here, remember the opposite sides have to be the same. These are not. So this is a no. Lastly, this, we know that these two add up to 180. I just don't know what these are. I kind of need one more to really determine, so I can't say what it is. So I'm going to say no. Finally, this last one, these two opposite sides don't have the same tick mark. That means they are not congruent. So this is a no on the last one.